It is 1 o'clock, and we're about to start our meeting, but before we do, one of the standard things we do is give a little presentation on safety on the off chance that there's any kind of an issue relative to fire and things like that. So Mr. Patrick Morrissey, one of our sworn investigators from the Orange County office, is going to take us through that relatively quickly, and then we can start the actual business of the meeting.
Hello. If there is an emergency, we're going to just exit out this right door here, make a left, and then make another right out to the parking lot, and then gather out there in case there's any type of emergency, and just follow my direction. Okay?
That's it?
That's it.
We're on it. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
You can lead or hustle us out. Very nice, sir. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Dental Board of California quarterly meeting. Today is Thursday, May 12th. I'm Dr. Alan Felsenfeld. I'm proudly serving as the president of this board. I want all of you to please take your cell phones and put them in silent mode, and for the members of the board, do not leave them on the table because if they vibrate, they will cause some kind of interference. We'd like to avoid any feedback. You may notice board members accessing their computers during the meeting. They are using the laptops solely to access board meeting materials that are in electronic format, so you'll see a few of us doing that. This is an official meeting, business meeting of the Dental Board of California. The board welcomes public comment on any item on the agenda, and it is the board's intent to ask for public comment prior to the board taking any action on any agenda item. If for some reason I forget to ask for public comment on an agenda item, please raise your hand, scream out at me, shake, do whatever, and let me know that you want to speak, and I will make sure you're recognized. Depending on the number of people that want to speak on a given topic, we may impose a limit either on the time that you can speak or the number of speakers that we will have. I don't think that's going to be an issue today, but understand that. We ask all speakers to absolutely stay on topic. Don't stray, don't go into other areas, stay on topic, and if a time limit is determined to be necessary, please keep your comments to within that. We may have a mid-afternoon break depending on how we're doing. And at this point, I would ask Dr. Molina, our board secretary, to please call the roll.
Hello, my name is Dr. Sonia Molina, and I'm the secretary, and I'm going to call the roll. Dr. Chan?
Present.
Dr. Felsenfeld?
Here.
Dr. Ladin?
Here.
Mackenzie? Medina?
Medina here.
Mendoza? Molina here. Morrow? Dr. Morrow?
Morrow is glad to be here.
Olagi?
Olagi present.
Pacheco?
Pacheco present.
Dr. Yu?
You here.
And we have a quorum.
Thank you, Dr. Molina. Before we start the actual agenda, I want to remind you of two things. First of all, board members, please turn off your microphones when you're not speaking. Don't have interference. I know I just turned mine off. I'm just showing them how to do that. And the other thing is, if you do wish to speak to a topic, take your sign like this. We saw this morning. It worked very well. Turn it up like this, and we will do our very best to recognize you in whatever order we get them. So please do that. We are now up to item number 2, public comment on items not on the agenda. Before we open public comment on matters not on the agenda, I would like to remind individuals making comments not to discuss pending complaints, pending licensing issues or applications, or pending disciplinary actions that may later come before the board for a decision. Such decisions are considered ex parte communications, and as they can, provide information to the members that is outside of the record in violation of the Administrative Procedure Act. Such discussions could create a conflict and lead to a board decision being challenged in Superior Court. Accordingly, if an individual makes comments on a pending disciplinary action, the individual will be interrupted and asked to step down from the microphone. The board can, of course, receive comments regarding procedures and the process in general, but it cannot receive comments on specific case circumstances where the decision is still pending. In addition, public comments should address the board as a whole and not individual members. Please be aware that public comment during this agenda item should provide information to board members, but is not intended as a discussion between board members and the public. The only action that the board can take at this time is to listen to the comments and decide whether they want to put a future agenda item on relative to that topic. Though this may seem at times like the board members are not responsive, following these guidelines is critical to ensure that the rules of the Open Meeting Act are being followed to avoid compromising the speaker's goals or the board's mission. In the interest of time, as we have done in the past, we would like to request that public comments not repeat statements that have been made by a prior commenter. If you are already in support of a statement, you may say that you are, and if the comments have been made, you can say, I agree with this individual. All you have to do at that point, if you wish, is to state your name and or association and your support for the previous comments. We'll now move on to item number three, which are the minutes of the 2 prior meetings. Do something we want to say?
We haven't taken public comment for items on the agenda.
Oh, do we need to do that too? Okay, I'm sorry, That's one. Okay, we need to take public comment on the public comment. Is there any public comment? That's one. All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you. Item number 3 will be the discussion and possible action on the minutes of the 2 prior meetings. We're going to do these individually because the first meeting was relatively busy and I'd like to take care of that. So let's start off with the meeting of March 14th, 2022. You have the minutes before you. Is there any board discussion about the minutes? Seeing none, we will need a motion to accept the minutes. Dr. Chan?
Make a motion to accept the minutes of March 14th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
I see Dr. Morrow, Dr. Lerin, either way. Thank you very much. Is there any further board discussion? Seeing none, is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, we are ready to vote. Board Secretary, would you please take the vote on this issue?
Chan,
Chan, aye.
Fessenfeld,
Felsenfeld, aye.
Larin,
Loreen, aye.
Medina,
Medina, aye.
Molina, I, Morrow,
Morrow, aye.
Olagi,
Olagi, aye.
Pacheco,
Pacheco, aye.
you.
You, aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The next item will be the minutes of the March 28th, 2022 board meeting. Is there any discussion from the board members? Seeing none, we would like a motion to accept or not, as the case may be. Anyone wants to move that? I see Mendoza, Ms. Medina, I'm sorry, Ms. Medina? Yes, what?
Yes. I move that we accept them.
You moved it, thank you. And Dr. Chan?
Second.
Chan, secondary. Any further board discussion on the motion as it is before us? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, we are ready to vote. Dr. Molina, please.
Chan,
Chan, aye.
Fessenfeld,
Felsenfeld, aye.
Larin,
Loreen, aye.
Medina,
Medina, aye.
Molina, I, Morrow,
Morrow, aye.
Olagi,
Olagi, aye.
Pacheco,
Pacheco, aye.
you.
You, aye.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Molina. We are now on item number 4, the board president report. Well, I am absolutely delighted to be here in person with you all. Most of you who have been to our meetings before understand the significance of having a meeting in person. The very first decision I had to make when I was your president early in January is when Ms. Wallace called up and said, well, do you want the first meeting to be virtual or in person? Because we had that option back then. And using what I felt at the time was better judgment, I said, let's do this one virtually because we don't know where this COVID is going and what's going to happen to us, and that way we're in the business. Turned out that was a good decision at the time. But right now, I am glad we're back together because we will work better as a board if we know each other and get to talk to each other over lunch, over dinner, whenever. So I think that's very good. And we look forward to this meeting. As far as being the president, when I was here over the years when I sat in the back, I used to listen to all the different things the president did and all the meetings they went to, and it's not happening so much anymore. We're doing a lot of WebEx and things like that. But we have done some things over the last couple of months after the last board meeting. Dr. Yu and I, our vice president, attended the board president orientation put together by the Department of Consumer Affairs and on how to run a meeting. That was in February. I attended the dental hygiene board meeting in March, on March 19th. I had an opportunity to speak at the California Dental Society of Anesthesia meeting, and I discussed the process relative to regulatory changes and how that happens and the complexity of how we get regulations made. Dr. Witcher, who's with us today, did a detailed description of Senate Bill 501 and the history and where it is as well. We will have an update on that later in this meeting. I also attended a second DCA leadership meeting with Dr. Yu earlier in April, and I continue to have weekly meetings with Ms. Wallace, which has been incredibly educational and helps with setting up board meetings and understanding the issues before us. And the last item I have to report, unfortunately, is a little bit of sad news, not bad news necessarily, but sad news in that recently we had resignations by Dr. Alicia Montel and Mr. Mark Mendoza because they had family issues and other parts of their life which conflicted with their ability to serve our board. I know that was a difficult decision for them to make. At the same time, we appreciate what they've done and their contributions to the board during their time with us, and we wish them well in their future endeavors. And that is my report. Are there any board comments on that? Seeing none. Is there any public comment on that? Seeing none, let us go on to item number 5, which is the Interim Executive Officer Report. Sarah Wallace. Ms. Wallace, if you will.
Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Wallace, and I am the Interim Executive Officer for the Dental Board. As Dr. Felsenfeld reported, we continue to have weekly meetings on Monday mornings. I've also had the opportunity to attend both board leadership meetings with Dr. Felsenfeld and Dr. Yu over the last several months, and the Dental Hygiene Board meeting that was scheduled in March. At the beginning of March, I had the opportunity to attend a DCA onboarding with different levels of executive leadership at the department and learn more about their centralized services and the value that they provide to the board. I also attended the DCA board member orientation training on March 9th. As you all know, we also had 2 board meetings in between the February meeting and this meeting that were scheduled on March 14th and March 28th. And we continued to work on the implementation of SB 501, which included the regulation development and the BREEZE implementation, which you'll hear more about later on during this meeting. We've held all staff meetings over the last several months, and the board executive management team has been working on providing a true colors training with all of our board staff. We had our first session a week ago, and we look forward to the next session in the next few weeks, and it's an opportunity for us all to learn more about the different colors and characteristics that each person bring to the board and how we can work together. We've continued recruitments since the February meeting. We've made several new hires, and our vacancy rate continues to be high as we continue to make promotions and hiring and folks move on to other agencies, but we are continuously working on our recruitments. Since the February meeting, we've made 2 promotions to staff in-house, which unfortunately also create a vacancy, so that doesn't help. We've hired 5 new staff in our licensing unit since the last meeting, and they're doing very well. Our executive unit has 1 vacancy for the executive officer. The admin unit, we're still recruiting for the budget and contract analyst. In the licensing unit for dentistry, we have 4 vacancies that are relatively newer, and we're working on filling those as quickly as possible. Recruitments have been posted. In the dental assisting unit, we currently have 6 vacancies. 1 is going to be filled at the beginning of June, and 2 are in the final hiring phase right now. In the anesthesia unit, we still continue to recruit for the legislative and regulatory analyst. Discipline coordination unit, who you all work very familiar with, does have 1 vacancy right now because we made a promotion of Pedro Galley to a licensing unit manager. So right now, Kathy Norris is the only discipline coordinator that we have, and we're working on a recruitment to fill behind. The investigative analysis unit, we're still recruiting to fill the manager position. Interviews should be held within the next couple of weeks, and we are still recruiting for the inspector classifications in the investigative analysis unit and our 2 Sacramento and Orange enforcement units. The complaint and compliance unit, we have a new vacancy for a manager position, and 2 other positions in the unit. Interviews are being scheduled, and we hope to have those positions filled within the next month. Additionally, we have some sworn investigator positions. The interviews are being conducted. That hiring process can be lengthy as they go through background checks. But we continue to work on board recruitments, actively seeking candidates. We're looking for the most qualified candidates to provide the best services for the board. After the February board meeting, the board management team met with Solid to work on the action plan for the board's strategic plan. We're in the final phases of working out that draft, and I hope to have more information to provide to the board at its August meeting relating to the action planning steps. Board staff continue to comply with the COVID-19 vaccination and testing requirements on a weekly basis. Per the governor's executive order, all staff that are not vaccinated are required to test for COVID-19 on a weekly basis, which happens at DCA headquarters for us. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Is there any board comments or questions for Ms. Wallace? Seeing Dr. Morrow.
Yes. I would just take this opportunity to thank you, Sarah, for stepping in and taking over in this position, and appreciate all the good work that you're doing and will continue to do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Morrow. Anyone else on the board? Is there any public comment on Ms. Wallace's report? Seeing none, we can move on to item number 6, excuse me. Each time we have a meeting, we have a representative from the Department of Consumer Affairs come to us. Today, we're very fortunate to have Ms. Carrie Holmes, who is sitting down right now. She is the Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations for the DCA. And Ms. Holmes, welcome, and have your report.
Good morning. One moment. Trying to do things the modern way too here. Or good afternoon, actually. Board President Felsenfeld and members. I am Carrie Holmes, Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations at the Department of Consumer Affairs. Thank you for inviting me to provide a department update today. It is exciting to be here with you in person. And I'm pleased to share that on April 5th, Board and Bureau Relations distributed our first iteration of a new quarterly newsletter titled Board Members Do You Know? The newsletter is an outreach tool to keep you informed of departmental activities, as well as other information that may impact you as a board member. I hope this was helpful to you, and we welcome your feedback and ideas for future issues. If you did not receive the newsletter, please let me know so we can verify that we have your updated and correct email address. On April 1st, boards and bureaus returned to meeting in accordance with all aspects of the Open Meeting Act, including publicly noticing all meeting locations. Board and Bureau Relations distributed guidelines and requirements to adhere to when conducting in-person meetings. DCA has also shared guidance and tips from California Health and Human Services Agency to reduce the spread of COVID-19 for in-person meetings. If you have not done so, I encourage you to review these documents. Additionally, although state guidance has relaxed mandatory face coverings, the California Department of Public Health strongly recommends that individuals continue to mask in indoor settings. Local orders may become more restrictive to respond to community conditions. Please be aware of changing public health guidance, and remember that as state representatives, we are all expected to adhere to state and local orders while carrying out our duties. As you know, legislation was introduced which would permanently allow boards and committees to meet remotely, while also providing physical options for members of the public to participate. AB 1733 was not heard in committee in time to move, so it is effectively a dead bill. However, it's likely these policy discussions will continue in the legislature. So DCA encourages the board to share its position with the bill's author and committees. DCA will be administering surveys until further notice to capture and track the costs and attendance for various meeting formats. This information will be used to analyze attendance and costs for in-person meetings. This survey link was provided to all board and bureau leadership and can be used for each meeting held. Whether meeting remote or in person, DCA wants to keep your board fully seated with excellent members and diverse voices. The board has several vacancies and some that are very new, as you mentioned, and I know that that is a concern. DCA is working closely with your appointing authorities to fill vacancies with a sense of urgency. Board members, please refer individuals who may be interested in board service to DCA's website for links to apply for both governor's and legislative appointments. Additionally, DCA's communications team has released a toolkit of recruitment content for social media in several languages, which can be used to share the word about your vacancies. I want to express my appreciation for the dedication of all the board members who have continued to serve through these changing times. As DCA looks to the future, Director Kirkmeyer continues to build the DCA team and lead the department towards continual improvement and excellent service. Tanya Corcoran began serving as the department's first Compliance and Equity Officer effective March 2nd. Ms. Corcoran will oversee DCA's solid training and planning solutions, Organizational Improvement Office, Equal Employment Opportunity Office, and Internal Audit Office, allowing DCA to better identify and analyze emerging issues and provide timely solutions to DCA's divisions, boards, and bureaus. Terrence Brass has been selected to serve as the chief of DCA's Division of Investigation. Brass will lead a team responsible for providing investigative services to DCA, boards, and bureaus with the mission to protect and serve California's consumers. Dadong Prihati has been selected to serve as the department's internal audits chief. Prihati will plan and direct the audit team, which provides independent, objective assurance and consulting services designed to add value and improve departmental operations. As always, Board and Bureau Relations is here to help, and if there's anything we can do to assist, please reach out. On a personal note, I'd like to actually let you know that my last day with the department is Friday. But you will be in good hands with the remaining Board and Bureau team until my spot is filled. I have 3 very young kids, and I'm going to stay home with them for a little while. It has been such an honor to work with your board, and with you, Sarah, thank you so much. And I'm happy to spend my last 2 days at your meeting. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Holmes, and we will miss you when you take off to be with your family, which obviously is very important. Are there any board member comments or questions for Ms. Holmes? Seeing none, is there any public comment or questions for Ms. Holmes? Well, thank you. Will you be staying for dinner this evening?
I'll be here
There you go. We'll
through
be
tomorrow.
All right,
Thank
we'll be
you
looking
so
for you then.
much.
Thank you so very much. We're now going to move on to item number 7, our budget report. Mr. Wilbert Ramboa is you're going to come up here and present it? Or do you have other reasons to be up here? You'll be there? Okay, Mr. Ramboa is going to discuss that on our budget. Thank you.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Wilbert Rambala, and I'm the Administrative Services Manager with the Dental Board of California. I will be presenting the budget report, which can be referenced on pages 43 through 48 of your meeting materials. These materials provide substantial information on the board's budget, both revenue and expenditures, and the projected fund balance moving forward. I would like to highlight some of the information and provide a little bit more clarity on them. There's also a budget memo that's been prepared and included in the materials that will have this information and highlights to other budget-related items. As a refresher for board members, I will go into some detail on our budget documents for clarity. The board's fund condition, which is displayed on page 46, is the board's fund condition statement. This document is read top to bottom and then left to right. The left column is prior year, and the board began fiscal year 2021 with an adjusted beginning balance of $14.1 million. The board collected approximately $18.7 million in revenue and expended approximately $14.3 million in direct expenditures. There were additional statewide expenditures of $1.1 million for a total expenditures of $15.4 million. The board ended 2021 with just over $12 million in reserve balance. That now moves to the top of the next column of the fund condition and becomes the beginning balance for the next fiscal year. You will also see there was 9.7 months in reserve. Months in reserve is the amount of time the board can continue normal operations without any new incoming revenues. A healthy program is considered to have funds for at least 6 to 12 months in reserve. For current year, 2021-22, based on the latest fiscal month 8 data, the board projects an estimate of $19 million in revenue. This number is estimated to remain stable over the next few fiscal years. The board's expenditures for this fiscal year as of fiscal month 8 are projected to be approximately $16.8 million. Expenditure projections, as with revenue projections, may change with actual returns in the remaining fiscal months. The dental board, in conjunction with the budget office, will continue to monitor these expenditures and revenues and report back to the board with monthly projections as future fiscal months close. You will find these figures on pages 47 to 48, which show specific category totals for expenditures and revenues. The expenditure projection report displays a detailed breakdown of expenditures for the state dentistry fund by line item. For prior year and prior year actuals are displayed in the green column. For current year budget and year-to-date expenditures are displayed in the blue column, and expense projections for year-end spending and the remaining balance in the orange column. Based on reports received by the Department of Consumer Affairs, the board is projected to revert approximately $2 million at the end of fiscal year 21-22. A few things to note on the board's fund condition. The fund condition is a snapshot in time and thus only captures a reflection of data used in its creation. Revenues remain constant and expenditures are anticipated to increase 3% annually. One of the main factors driving expenditure increases in future years is a result of personal service adjustments. These include general salary increases as well as employee compensation and retirement rate adjustments. The budget office includes an ongoing 3% increase to expenditures on the fund condition statement to account for these ongoing incremental adjustments. Future year months in reserve go down due to the revenue being held constant to the current governor's budget, and expenditures assumed to be fully expended plus the 3% previously mentioned. The fund condition does not include increased enforcement expenditures, which include higher than normal caseload and increased costs of investigation. These additional costs could create pressure to the board's fund in out years. And lastly, we would like to note that any future legislation or unanticipated events could result in the board's need for additional resources. The board staff will keep the line of communication with the budget office open to monitor the board's fund condition statement and expenditures and revenues. There are no action items on the agenda item, and this concludes the budget report.
Thank you, Mr. Ramboa. Is there any board member discussion or questions on the budget report? Dr. Morrow.
Thank you. Mr. Ramboa, I draw your attention to page number 2 of 6 of your report, or page 44 of the materials, under expenditures, second paragraph. Overall projection expenditures are subject to rise approximately $1.8 million over previous year. Personnel services and attorney generals make up the largest. I'm assuming that means personnel, not personal?
Yes, personnel services.
Okay. I was wondering how you were spending that as personnel.
I can guarantee you I don't have that in my account.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Morrow. Is there any other board discussion on the budget report? Is there any public comment on the budget report? Seeing none, Mr. Ramboa, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're now going to go on to item number 8, a report on the Dental Hygiene Board of California activities. I see Mr. Lum and Dr. Dones coming to the microphone, and if you'll be kind enough to tell us what's going on down there, we'd appreciate it.
Good afternoon, President Felsenfeld and board members. My name is Anthony Lum, and I'm the Executive Officer of the Dental Hygiene Board. I just want to thank you for having us today for your meeting, and we will provide an update. I want to introduce you to our new president, Dr. Carmen Dones, to provide our report. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, President Felsenfeld, board members, and staff. I'm Carmen Dones, the board president, participating with Anthony Lum to report the dental hygiene activities to you. We've been busy since our last report in November 2021 with a focus on the following. With COVID, during the continued but decreasing pandemic, dental hygienists maintain the use of standard precautions, extensive use of PPE, and properly cleaning and sterilizing operatories in between dental treatments to protect themselves and consumers alike. If licensees have questions about COVID-related issues, we refer them to the local public health agency, the state's Department of Public Health, or the CDC for guidance. With regards to the sunset review, board staff was preparing our 2023 sunset review. However, the administration extended our sunset date through Senate Bill 607, Chapter 367 Statutes of 2021 until January 1st, 2024, due to time constraints to address other important issues. We're currently working on the draft sunset report to present to the board for approval and subsequently the legislature by December 1st, 2022 deadline. Regulations, we continue to work on promulgating new regulations and identified the need to revise existing regulatory sections as needed. Most of them are continuing in the regulatory process since our last report, with several departmental and agency reviews prior to moving forward to the Office of Administration Law for approval. We currently have 7 regulatory packages in various stages of the review process. Issues such as a feasibility study requirement for new dental hygiene educational programs, authority to cite and fine or place dental hygiene education programs that are out of compliance on probation, and inspection parameters for mobile dental hygiene clinics and portable dental equipment owned by registered dental hygienists in alternative practice are a few awaiting approval. Dental relationships. Our regulations, California Code of Regulations, Section 1117, that enacts the mandates of Business and Profession Code, Section 1930, where an RDHAP is required to have a dental relationship with at least one licensed dentist for referral, consultation, and emergency services, were approved and are active July 1st, 2022. This regulation was important in the interest of consumer protection since RDHAPs provide dental hygiene services autonomously to consumers in certain settings, such as residences of the homebound, institutions, schools, residential facilities, etc., assisting the underserved populations. Until now, the board required a documented dental relationship to be reported to the board at the time of license issuance without additional follow-up. However, over the past few years, the board has received communications from dentists and licensees that the dental relationship was terminated, and it existed only for a short time or was never established, which places the consumer at risk. With other new regulations effective April 1st, 2022, that allow RDHAPs to perform soft tissue curettage and administer local anesthesia after consultation with a licensed dentist, the board felt it was imperative to ensure the RDHAP has an existing dental relationship to refer or consult with. As such, the board submitted regulations to implement the requirement that all RDHAPs must report a relationship with at least one licensed dentist at every licensed renewal. This provides the board the dental relationship information to ensure RDHAPs are providing their services safely and have a referral source for any complex or emergency dental issues. The RDHAP will need to report the dentist's name and license number to the board for reference, and they shouldn't have any disciplinary action against them. We wanted to inform you of these regulations since they involve dentists, and your board staff may receive inquiries. With regards to educational programs, site visits to dental hygiene education programs are on a temporary hold as our staff person recovers from a medical issue. They are scheduled to resume in the fall so the board can complete its initial review of all programs for a baseline to use moving forward. When we began these site visits in 2016, it was projected that it would take about 5 years to complete an initial review of each school, since there are 29 total dental hygiene programs in the state. Even with several schools needing follow-up visits and the unexpected pandemic, we're on track to complete all first-time reviews of schools within 6 years, barring any unexpected issues arising. With regards to wet laboratory waiver update, the temporarily approved wet laboratory waiver for students to complete their biomedical prerequisite science coursework online expired on March 31st, 22, and was not extended by the administration. After a thorough review of our existing regulations, a wet laboratory component for each course is required, but the methodology of completion through online or actual wet lab is not identified and will be acceptable by the dental hygiene educational programs if the institution grants course credit for completion. Our alternative pathways to licensure. Last year, the board established a task force to research the possibility of alternative pathways to dental hygiene licensure and have met several times to discuss the issue. The task force is continuing its research and consists of board members, educators, and licensees to find alternative pathways recommendations to present to the board for review. Additional meetings will be scheduled to vet possible ideas and recommendations to be presented to the board for review. With regards to personnel, the board will see a drastic change this year as some of our long-term members are termed out and will be replaced. 5 board members, 3 licensees, and 2 public members are scheduled to be replaced by the end of the year. For staff, we continue to fill our vacant positions as quickly as possible to address the board's work, and currently have 2 vacancies which should be filled soon. That concludes my report, and I want to thank you for the continued efforts to communicate and collaborate on dental issues.
Thank you, Dr. Dones. Mr. Lum, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Is there any board member discussion or questions to either Dr. Dones or Mr. Lum? Dr. Morrow.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your report. I just have a question regarding your investigation or review of dental hygiene programs in the state. Do you also review those programs that are accredited by the Commission on Dental Accreditation, or only those that are, should say, approved by your board?
We investigate or do site visits for both. They have to be CODA approved and board approved in order to offer their educational programs here in the state. So yes, we do site visits for all the CODA approved programs.
Good, thank you. Could you give me a ballpark figure of the number of hygiene programs that are in California that are not CODA approved?
I don't believe there are any. We over the years we've had numerous requests to open up new schools, and since that time we've implemented some laws that provide the authority for us to accept feasibility studies to identify needs. Because just as an example, down here in the LA Basin, there's like 15 schools. So any new entity that wants to open a program, they have to submit a feasibility study to justify why they would want a new dental hygiene program in that specific area.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board comments or questions for either Dr. Dones or Mr. Lum? Seeing none, is there any public comment for the representatives from the Dental Hygiene Board? In that case, thank you very much, Dr. Dones. Thank you, Mr. Lum. Good to see you both.
Thank you.
We're moving on to item number 9 on the agenda, which is going to be a discussion of enforcement. Mr. Morrissey, who you met earlier today, is going to give us a brief update on what's going on with enforcement, our review of statistics.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm presenting the enforcement statistics for the third quarter of this fiscal year. The report is an overview of the statistics for the months between January 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 2022 for the Dental Board Complaint Compliance Unit, Disciplinary Coordination Unit, and investigative units for the Sacramento and Orange offices. Pretty much the one statistic that I saw that was noteworthy since the July 1 fiscal year, our probationers have dropped by about 40 probationers. And I'm not sure why, but it's something that was noteworthy because it usually stays pretty average. And this concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Morrissey. Is there any board member comments, questions for Mr. Morrissey? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the report? Thank you, sir. Very good. We're going to move on now to item number 10, examinations. We're going to ask Dr. Pappas to come and join us to talk about the Cdca Western Regional Board examination combination. So, Dr. Pappas, welcome back.
Thank you, and that's kind of a mouthful, isn't it?
It is, sir.
Hopefully they come up with a shorter name, especially with CETA joining forces in August. So
thank you.
It'll really be long. But thank you, President Felsenfeld, board members, and board staff. It's been a busy year at ADEX with the new examiners from REB coming in. We've been moving those folks in to observations and actually examining, in addition to their giving their own exam through what was supposed to be July, but they've added a few exams to finish up all the way to the end of the year. So there are a couple in November and December. It's a great move to have those folks examining with us, and we have worked well together, and we are happy to have them with ADEX. As far as California goes, we've reached out to all the schools, at least Cdca REB has reached out to all the schools that had previously only given the REB exam, and they are meeting in person. In fact, Shane Overfelt from Cdca REB is meeting tomorrow with UCLA. Dr. Guy Champagne is here at the CDA and meeting with potential candidates at that meeting, and they've sent videos to all the schools to share with the faculty about the examination. So we're doing all we can to help ease the transition to the new examination, or what's new to some folks. I'd like to, again, you've heard me say this before, but I'd welcome California. We have our annual meeting in August. I'd welcome California to participate in that and have a say in the examination. It doesn't have, a representative from California doesn't have to be an existing board member. It can be a former board member. And by becoming a member of ADEX, you don't have to exclusively give our examination. But that would give the state of California a say in development of the examination. And the sooner that's done, we have committee meetings coming up on the various aspects of the exam, restorative, prosthodontics, all that scoring. We have that all going on. The transition during the pandemic to the competent tooth has been a great addition to the examination, and I think a fair examination, as all the candidates that take that examination are essentially doing the same thing. They're all being judged on a level playing field, and it's a little bit more challenging in that there are actually caries that are significant that the candidates have to recognize. So it's good for boards. It's a good way to examine, and the fact that we don't have to involve patients, I think, is a tremendous addition. So that concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Pappas. Do we have any board questions for Dr. Pappas? Dr. Loreen.
Hello, Dr. Pappas. Thanks for being here. I'm just going to make a comment. I was given permission last year to be an examiner after a little bit of debate with our executive director, but it's a wonderful opportunity. I was invited to be an observer at the ADEX exam, and I can tell you that all of us should try to participate and be there. Maybe just to observe like he invited us, or to be an examiner. Most of the examiners are board members in their states. So to me, it's really changed my perspective on education, how I view the graduating students, or because I've never been around education. I've always wanted to, but San Diego doesn't have a dental school. So this is really educational for board members to participate and try to collaborate with any of the examination boards that are out there. Right now it's only ADEX, I think, but I just wanted to comment that. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're happy to have any board members. If Ms. Wallace can reach out to our executive director, Kathleen Kelly, and arrange an observation for any board member that would like.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lerin. Thank you, Dr. Pappas. Are there any other board comments or questions for Dr. Pappas? I have one that may be really out of left field and really dumb from my standpoint, but are we 100% mannequin-based in California now? All of the exams given in California, are they all mannequin-based, your competent tooth?
We offer to the schools. There's still a couple states that require.
No,
my
our
own
schools,
state of
California
Nevada.
is what I'm asking. California.
Well, I know, but California schools have individuals from other states that may be going home. So it's up to the school as to what type of exam they want to offer. Like last year at USC, we had what we call a hybrid exam where there were both mannequin and patients. Far more mannequin than patients, but because of students that want to become licensed in their own state, some of the schools are still offering. But that's up to the school. If they want to go 100% mannequin, that's...
Okay. Be interesting to see the trending over the next few years because it's just getting started, so thank you very much. Any other board comments? Is there any public comment on the report from Dr. Pappas? Thank you, sir. We appreciate your being here as usual.
Thank you for having me.
Item 10B is going to discuss the prioritization of exam reviews to be conducted by the Department of Consumer Affairs, Office of Professional Examination Services. We discussed this last year, I believe it was, or an earlier meeting, and we're going to revisit it a little bit, and we're going to ask Ms. Wallace to take the lead on this.
Thank you. During the November board meeting in 2021, the board discussed and was presented information by the Department of Consumer Affairs Office of Professional Examination Services regarding examination reviews that were pending and the prioritization of conducting those reviews and those exam validations. Given time constraints and staff resources and the number of examinations that we work with OPES on to develop and review, it was necessary for the board to prioritize 3 exams, the order in which the board wanted them reviewed. So the first was the Integrated National Dental Board Examination. We also discussed the DLOSCI and the California Dental Board Portfolio Exam. At that meeting, it was understood that the INDBE would be the first priority in the examination review, and the board voted to then prioritize the DLOSCI and then the review of the California Portfolio Examination. Based on recent meetings with OPES, it seems that the INBDE exam vendor has requested that we push out the review as they further develop their occupational analysis, and OPES recommends that we push that review out a year, which opens up a spot for us to reprioritize. So at this point in time, board staff are recommending the board take action to prioritize the review of the California Board's Portfolio Examination and the DLOSCI to be conducted over the next fiscal year, beginning in July.
Very good. Are there any board questions or comments about this? Dr. Morrow, are you going for your... Go ahead, sir, Dr. Morrow.
I had to raise my card.
No problem.
I understand that the portfolio examination is up for review simply because of statute requirement. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is a California board examination that's currently existent in statute. We do have an obligation in statute to ensure that our examinations are psychometrically valid and legally defensible. So for that reason, in addition, we're recommending that the portfolio exam be prioritized.
I understand that. As far as the review of the integrated national board examination, I think probably that's statutory requirement as well as far as timing is concerned, but basically the integrated national board exam is simply a combination of what used to be Part 1 and Part 2, which was given in two separate sections. Part 1 was usually given in the second year of dental education. Part 2 was given in the end of the third or the beginning of the fourth year. Basically what they did was just combine those two into one exam. So I don't think there's that much difference, but still we need to statutorily go through that review process. Is that correct?
That's correct. That examination has been for a long time required in statute for dental licensure. And OPS has not had an opportunity to review the exam. So this is our opportunity to bring us up into compliance. And so for that reason, we've added that examination on our list. And then these exams would be on our rotation schedule for the every 5 to 7 years moving forward.
Yeah, but
Go ahead, Dr. Morrow.
Mr. President, would it be appropriate at this point for me to move that we make a motion that we approve recommendation for OPS to review the integrated national board examination, the portfolio examination and the Delosky?
That is what they're asking us to do. The sequence is different in what the staff is recommending in terms of they should do 1, 2, and 3. But I've been assured, and please help me, that they can do all 3 simultaneously. Is that correct? Or 2 of them at least right now?
In speaking with OPES, they would be able to do the DLOSCI and the portfolio exam concurrently. And then the INBDE would be at a later date based on the vendor's availability.
So the priority that you're suggesting is a little different than the priority they would like.
No, I'm wanting to move the priority sequence that Sarah just identified.
That's identified here.
Right.
Okay, that's
identified in staff's report.
Okay, that is appropriate to make that motion. Is there a second? I think Dr. Chan was probably up, or Dr. Loreen was not up. Who's up? Go ahead. Doctor, who's up?
I'll second it.
Dr. Chan has seconded it. The motion is up for discussion. Go ahead, Dr. Loreen. I can't hear you, ma'am.
I just had a question about the INBDE. So my understanding is that it's already being taken by the students. So what happens if it's not approved or whatever we're going to do with it? I mean, what's going to happen with these students that have taken it and they're applying now for the ADEX or whatever? I mean, is that going to be valid?
I've discussed this with OPS, and there's no reason to believe that there's any issue with the examination. They go through their own psychometric validation, and this is just to ensure that we have the linkage study for our end as well for licensure.
Okay.
I think they'll be fine.
Is there any other discussion about this particular motion? Dr. Morrow, did you want to speak to it more? Go ahead.
Are you basically saying that that's a statutory requirement that we go through that process and not necessarily because we have concerns about the validity of the exam?
That is the only reason why we are doing the examination review.
We have to. Any other board discussion? Dr. Loreen?
Wouldn't it be better to prioritize the INBDE since it's already being taken?
Say that again, please.
Wouldn't it be better to put in first place the evaluation of INBDE because it's already being taken?
I believe OPES did not want to go that way. They felt that there was going to be something holding that exam out for their own occupational analysis.
Correct. So INBDE has asked for it to be delayed a year, and that's the vendor that's requesting it to be delayed. I believe they're going through their own examination validation, which would be necessary for OPS to review to ensure that it was linked correctly.
Any further board discussion on this issue with the prioritization as it is written in your meeting notes? Is there any public discussion on the topic of the prioritization of these exam reviews? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. Dr. Molina, would you please take the roll on the motion?
Chan,
Chan, aye.
Felsenfeld,
Felsenfeld, aye.
Larin,
Aye.
Medina,
Medina, aye.
Molina, aye. Morrow?
Morrow, aye.
Olagi?
Olagi, aye.
Pacheco?
Pacheco, aye.
You?
You, aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Dr. Molina. We now move to item number 11, the licensing certification and permits section. We have Jessica Alney, who is our guru in that area. Ms. Alney, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Felsenfeld, and good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Jessica Only. I'm the Anesthesia Unit Manager at the Dental Board of California. I'll be presenting agenda item number 11, which is the review of dental licensure and permit statistics, which begins on page 65 of your meeting materials. This memo includes dental license application statistics for the first 3 quarters of fiscal year 2021 through 2022, which includes graphs of the data which begin on page 69. The information includes applications received, approved, licenses issued, canceled, withdrawn, and denied for the 5 pathways to licensure in California. And those include licensure by reb, licensure by credential, licensure by residency, licensure by portfolio, and licensure by ADEX. On page 72 begins statistics on license and permit statuses, and on page 75 you will find data on active dental licenses compared to the population for each county in California. No action is requested on this report as the data is provided as informational. I'm available for any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alney. Is there any board member discussion or questions on this report? Seeing none, is there any public comment on this report? Thank you.
Thank you.
Let us move on to item number 12, which will be proposed regulatory changes relative to the law and ethics exam. We're going to ask Mr. Brueggemann, who is our legislative analyst, if I get that correct, to discuss the issues for us.
Hello, and thank you. Yes, I am David Brueggemann. I'm the Legislative and Regulatory Specialist with the Dental Board. We're going to discuss agenda item 12, and there are 2 related actions that we're going to ask the board to do. We're going to ask them to consider a comment that was submitted during the public notice period for modified text, and then we're going to ask the board to vote on that modified text. So let me provide some background, which is in the memo that starts on page 78 of your meeting materials. And for additional reference, if you wish to look at the language for the modified text, that is on page 82. And the specific comment that we're dealing with is on page 81. So at the board's February 2019 meeting, the board approved a rulemaking package to amend the section 1031 of our regulations related to the passing score of the California Dentistry Law and Ethics examination. And this would allow for OPES to use a criterion reference passing score to make the dentistry law and ethics exam legally defensible. And this is in connection to some of the discussion we had in an earlier agenda item. So at the August 2020 meeting, the board approved revised regulatory language. We submitted a final rulemaking to the Office of Administrative Law in December of 2021. The office then responded shortly thereafter, indicating that there was a clarity issue with our rulemaking text, that we had made reference to an ANGOF standard setting method in some of our rulemaking documents, but that particular language was not in the actual regulatory text that we were proposing. Specifically, that the language did not specify that the ANGOF standard setting when defining the term criterion reference passing score. So at the February 2022 meeting, the board approved modified regulatory language to describe that ANGOF standard setting method in connection with the law and ethics examinations. So the modified text was put for public notice for a 15-day comment period. That ran from mid-February to early March of this year. The board received 1 comment, which I'm going to summarize in just a moment, and the board staff has a proposed response for the board's consideration. So the basic comment was received from Dr. Louis Turkey. He appeared to be seeking clarity on the proposed changes, but he also expressed some skepticism at the general ability to teach ethics. The commenter would like to know how the proposed changes would encourage ethics, but they're not asking for a specific change. So we are recommending a proposed response which follows in the memo, basically that the board has considered the comment and has decided to make no changes to the proposed text, in part because the comment does not make a request for a specific change. And while it does raise a concern about the clarity of the overall proposed changes, the intent is to change the requirement for passing the law and ethics exam from a particular score, a specified passing score, to a criterion-based passing score. In the modified text, that particular approach is described as involving licensees and experts in evaluating the examination to determine that the passing score represents entry-level competence in applying California law and principles of ethics and practice of dentistry. And so, in essence, we have two options for the board to consider with respect to this comment. And again, we're just dealing with the comment with this particular, with item 12A. The first option, if the members agree with our staff recommended response, that we would ask that the board move to direct staff to proceed as recommended, to reject the comment as specified, and provide the response to the comment as indicated in the staff recommended response. Now, if the members would like to make any edits to the recommended response or disagree with our recommendation and wish to accept the comment or make any other changes, the motion would then be something to the effect of that the board moves to direct staff to accept the following comment and make the following edits to the text, with a list of whatever those agreed to changes would be. And at this point, I'd like to take a pause while we consider the comment, or the board considers the comment, and then I can continue with this item 12B.
Thank you. That will be fine, Mr. Bergman. So we need a motion to accept the board recommendation to reject the comment. Am I saying that correctly for you, sir? To reject the comment.
Pardon, the staff recommendation to reject the comment.
No, I'm sorry, the staff recommendation. So is there anyone who is willing, does anyone have any discussion on that before we even make the motion relative to what Dr. Turchi was suggesting? All right, Dr. Morrow.
Yeah. Well, I accept Dr. Turchi's recommendation. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I appreciate his recommendation. And it is my motion that we approve option number 1 by staff, recommended response, and direct staff to proceed as recommended to reject the comment as specified and provide response to the comment as indicated by staff recommendation.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Dr. Chan, you're up there, is that it?
Chan, second.
Second. Do we have any further board discussion on the motion to reject the comment based on staff recommendations? Any other further discussion on that? Seeing none, is there any public comment on that? Then we are ready to vote. Dr. Molina, would you take the roll on the vote, please?
Chan,
Chan, aye.
Felsenfeld,
Felsenfeld, aye.
Darin,
Lorraine, aye.
Medina,
Medina, aye.
Molina, I, Morrow,
Morrow, aye.
Olagi,
Balagi, aye.
Pacheco,
Pacheco, aye.
you,
You, aye.
motion passes.
Thank you. Now that we've rejected the comment, Mr. Bergman, you want to discuss what you'd like us to help you with now, or what we will do as a board?
Yes, so at this point, given that we are rejecting the comment and not making any further changes to the proposed regulatory text, we would need the board to make a motion to adopt the proposed modified text. And again, that modified text is on page 82. The specific changes that we've been discussing are limited to section 1031C. The items that are in either double strike through would be removed in the modified text, and those that are in double underline would be added in the modified text.
Thank you.
That's the extent of the changes that we're discussing at this particular time.
Thank you. In the meeting notes, the suggestion is to be a little broader than that. Is to direct staff to take all steps necessary on the top of page 80. I think that's probably the next
I'd be happy
step.
to read that motion if you'd like.
Well, you don't have to at this point because one of us can, but Are we good with that? We having an issue here?
So since the board has rejected the previously discussed comment and makes no further changes to the proposed text, staff is recommending the board consider the following motion to complete the rulemaking process and adopt the proposed text, which is direct staff to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking process, including filing of the final rulemaking package with the Office of Administrative Law, authorize the executive officer to make any non-substantive changes to the proposed regulation and the rulemaking documents, and adopt the proposed regulations as described in the modified text notice for California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Section 1031.
I'll move that. Okay. And Dr. Chan?
I'll second.
We have that seconded. Okay, we don't need to read that again. I think it's clear in there. Is there any board discussion about that? Dr. Morrow?
Yeah, I'd just like to state that for a long time now, I have been uncomfortable with the knowledge that the applicants for licensure in California have graduated from a CODA-approved school. CODA requires education in ethics. California board requires passing an examination in ethics, but yet we spend a lot of our time in disciplinary actions. There seems to be a disconnect between knowledge and behavior as far as ethics are concerned. My understanding of the changes that are being recommended in the examination will better connect the knowledge to the application of that knowledge in real time. My understanding also is that the examination will be in two parts. One will be knowledge, and one will be application of that knowledge. And the Angeloff process better connects the two dots to make a solid line, knowledge and application. So I'm strongly in favor of, and I am delighted to see this change taking place.
Thank you, Dr. Morrow. Is there any other board comment? Is there any public comment on the issue? Seeing none, Dr. Molina, would you take the roll on that?
Chen,
Chan, aye.
Felsenfeld,
Felsenfeld, aye.
Larin,
Larine, aye.
Medina,
Medina, aye.
Molina, I, Morrow,
Morrow, aye.
Olagi,
Malagi, aye.
Pacheco,
Pacheco, aye.
You, aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Don't go away, Mr. Bergerman. We're going to be looking at
I'm
item
still
number
here.
13, an update on our pending regulatory packages. You want to take us through that, please?
Absolutely. So we have a chart on pages 84 and 85 outlining the basic of where our regulatory packages are at the current time. One major update to make since this chart was prepared was that the rulemaking file for SB 501 was filed with the Office of Administrative Law on May 2nd, and it is currently with them for review. And I'm here to answer any additional questions that the board members may have.
I would also like to add the dental assisting comprehensive rulemaking that the board had previously approved in December of 2019 went through a preliminary review with legal counsel, our regulatory board legal counsel, sorry. And we've determined that the language has some issues with it relating to consistency, clarity, non-duplication, which are all standards that are necessary to be met going through an Office of Administrative Law review. And so it's the recommendation at this point that that package will need to be re-referred most likely back to the Dental Assisting Council. Board staff will work with subject matter experts to reorganize the language. We're not starting over. It's not reevaluating the policy direction that the board had already established relating to the educational application and examination requirements, but we need to restructure the proposal to ensure that it meets all of the standards that OAL will be reviewing for approval. So that'll be coming back at future meetings as well.
We've seen the listing of all of the pending regulatory packages. Any other board comments on that? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the regulatory packages? Seeing none, thank you. I think we're done for now.
Thank you.
Well, 1 hour and 8 minutes. I'm not sure how we did that, but we are done for today. And we're going to take a recess. I'm going to suggest we take maybe a 10-minute break real quick. We have to empty the room. We're going to go into closed session. So those of you who are here for the closed session, fine. The rest of you, have a good evening, and we hope to see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I would suggest to the board members, before we finish for today, particularly the board members, that you pack